There was a time when I felt a distance growing in my relationship with one of my children. And that was probably one of the hardest things that I've ever been through. I don't think anybody wants to experience that feeling of disconnect and detachment. And what can I do? Is it my fault? Is it their fault? How do I fix this? I'm trying. They don't seem to care. That kind of thing. It was hard. And it's not something that I have really talked about before on this channel, but thought that it was time to discuss when I felt like I almost lost my relationship with one of my kids. So not only are we going to talk about that difficult time in my life, but I also want to talk about what I did. I want to share with you what brought the relationship back. I think that's important for parents nowadays, especially when your children get to the teen years. I think you don't usually get in danger of losing the relationship when your children are like under age 11, right? But sometimes they get a little bit older and there's that distance that forms. Then sometimes we don't know how to navigate those times and it can get worse and worse. And sometimes things are pretty good and then the child reaches adulthood and they get exposed to other things that maybe are contrary to what your family believes or thinks, and then that creates a problem too, because now you don't have as much in common, or there's some judgment there, right? Maybe you're judging them, maybe they're judging you, maybe it's both happening all at the same time. I've seen lots of situations like this. And one of the reasons that I actually feel qualified to even help people in this type of situation when they talk to me on my TSG community calls and stuff like that is because I've actually been through it myself. Not only did me and my husband take in foster children for a lot of years, and they were all teens and they had a lot of struggles, and sometimes they would give us the cold shoulder, not want to talk to us, and we had to, navigate through those things. But we also raised 4 children of our own, and these times that we live in, there are so many voices and just talking heads that are competing for your child's attention, their allegiance, and really, it sort of feels like sometimes there's almost like forces trying to pull them away from their family and the safety, connection, comfort, peace that they could have there. So even though there have been multiple circumstances that I've helped parents navigate, or I've navigated myself with foster children as they've come and gone, and some of my own children, I just want to talk today about one experience. We put our whole hearts and souls into the relationships with our children. I mean, just everything. And we just have all of our hopes attached to, the happiness and the success that that person's going to have, and what our relationships are going to be like, and all of that. Then there comes this moment where you feel like you don't have the impact anymore. Now, it is normal, I will say, during the teen years for children and youth to experiment with pulling away from their parents and starting to, take on a little bit more autonomy. I'm going to take care of this. I'm going to make money. I'm going to budget my time, or not budget my time, as the case may be with some young people, but they're going to try all of these things, and they're going to fail sometimes, and they're going to succeed sometimes. And they're going to come to parents for help sometimes, and then sometimes they're not. And they're going to be sorting through a lot of what they would consider very heavy stuff, all on their own. And sometimes they don't let the parents know what it is. Sometimes there's social things going on, and there's a level of attachment or detachment that the parent doesn't even know. They're not even aware, what's happening in the child. So my children, my biological children at least, were always really open with me. But there was a time when one of them, he was already an adult actually, and he, was out having his way in the world and, doing pretty good, but also I think started to listen to a lot of other voices around him about, family and attachment to family and all this kind of stuff. And there was a distance that was there, and it was hard. And he was doing a few things that maybe our family didn't do. Not that it was like major moral things or anything like that, but just, some kind of cultural things that maybe we weren't doing. And when I say that, I should probably just declare what it is. Like, he was just playing video games, which is not, our family's just not really big into video games, and hasn't been culturally. My husband was very adamant about the fact that he didn't want our house to be a video game house because he would be on it too much. And I said, done deal. I didn't want a husband who was, going to be spending time with his square-headed girlfriend instead of with me. And so we just weren't a gaming family. And so that was part of our culture that actually people really liked. I think a lot of people liked it. But then my son, gets out into the world with his friends, with college, and they're doing all of that. And I'm just kind of going, well, okay, whatever. Hopefully it doesn't become an addiction, because there's also just part of social life that, to talk about. And so I wasn't super concerned about it, but I think he maybe was. And so he was concerned about maybe that we would judge him for that or something, because he knew our family didn't really engage in that. And I think because he was doing different things, he was with different people, he was having different experiences, there was just this time where there was this distance that was created. It was so hard because I kept trying to reach out to him, but I was asking all the wrong things, okay? I was like, I would reach out and say, oh, hey, like I'd finally get a hold of him, and I'd say like, oh, it's so good to finally talk to you. I've been, trying for a long time, but you haven't returned my calls. Oh, you don't say that. You don't say you haven't done your job on the side of this relationship. So I would keep putting my foot in my mouth, and I'm like, that's the wrong thing to say. There came a point where it just went a little bit more radio silent. And I think he really thought maybe we didn't understand his life. We were judging him. I think there were other voices who were kind of like pulling him away from family and stuff. And there was just probably a lot going on. Maybe even to this day, I don't even fully understand it. But I know that I was hurt, and it was hard, and I felt like I was lonely. Even though I had all of my other children around me, I felt alone. Because when you love someone that deeply, when you've given your heart to your children, you could be surrounded by people, but you still feel somehow isolated and burdened with the weight of that relationship that's not working really well. And time went by, and honestly, I had to let some time just go by because I kept trying to talk about things, and I couldn't get the audience, He was busy, and he didn't want to put the time in. I don't know why he didn't want to have the conversation, even to this day. But he was going through stuff, and he needed to do it on his own right then. And I wanted to be there for him, the mom who wants to be there. But I was probably pushing a little bit too hard. And I was definitely saying things that were like maybe me trying to steer him as I'm trying to help him solve problems that I didn't even know what they were. And so I definitely said the wrong things sometimes, I would say. Anyway, so then I just decided, you know what? I'm just going to pray for him. I'm going to love him. I'm going to send him a text every once in a while. And I'm just going to wait until he decides that he wants to connect back, and sometimes that's kind of what you have to do. There was this point where I just felt one day like I need to just see if he wants to go out to lunch, because it'd been a while. And I said, hey, you want to go out to lunch? And he was like, yeah, I do. And this time, going out to lunch, I said to him, I want to take you out to lunch to tell you how sorry I was. I'm sorry that I've, done these things, or that I've pushed a little too hard. I've been a little too nosy. I've been, whatever it was. And I just apologized for anything I could think of that I could apologize for, even though, in my heart, I probably thought, I've just been trying to do the best I can as a mom, and you don't appreciate that, probably I felt a little misunderstood, but I also recognized that he needed me to verbalize everything that I thought he might be thinking about me, or that I saw that he might think that where I've pushed too hard in one way or another. And so I just did. And we sat and had a good cry and a great lunch together. And then all of a sudden it was like everything was okay. He felt understood, you know. I needed to just declare what I knew he might have thought, and some mistakes that I had made in our own communications and stuff. And so, you know, he needed to hear that from me, and then everything changed. And that's not to say everything got immediately better. It takes time, right? Like some people, they have to ease in to stuff, and like, okay, well now I'm going to come back into that relationship, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh whoa, things are so much better now, and it was so great. So that was hard. It was a hard time, but I want to just, you know, highlight on a few things, and that is that I had to be patient. I couldn't expect things to happen on my timeline. I had to be honest about things that, you know, truly were problems that I probably had, communications that I made that weren't really effective. I had to learn. I had to keep learning along the way in that relationship. I had to be humble, you know, I had to be teachable. And I had to let him kind of lead out. I mean, he was an adult. He needed to tell me how he wanted the relationship to go from his side, and I had to honor that. And then it was a big change, you know. The relationship shift was a beautiful, just healing thing, because suddenly he didn't feel expectations. He felt like he was in the driver's seat on the relationship too, which he needed to. Now that's an adult relationship, right? But there's a lot of families who experience the same sort of thing with their teenage children, and they struggle. Now, do you just back off from your teenager for a really long time? No, they need you. You have to see each other every day. You're all in the same house. So what do? Well, you're going to practice those same principles of patience and making sure you acknowledge the things that are happening. Don't be judgmental. Don't be condescending. Don't be angry. But also, what you do probably need to do is say, hey, let's talk about, you know, maybe what we've done that has not been helpful. Let's clear the air, right? And then let's make a plan going forward for how we're gonna fix things in this relationship. And there's a lot of different ways that you can make a plan. One of those is just starting by talking about what your roles are with each other. And there's a great book that can actually help with that, and it's called Roles: The Secret to Family, Business, and Social Success. There's conversations in that book that can really help get families on the same page, get buy-in on relationships. But, you know, just talking about what you want and letting them know, hey, listen, my goal in this relationship is not to correct you every day. My goal in this relationship is to be a support for your life. And that they can see a bigger picture of what you're doing besides just the instructions that are given all the time. And take a little bit of time to do other things besides just talking about the relationship, you know. Reach out for some other things that you need to discuss. Have those conversations when you're on a drive, if you can. And if not, be patient. Give it time. When you keep being there for them, that right there is an example of a person who's not going to leave them, even if they mistreat them. And that is something they need to see. Because then later in life, if they want to blame you for everything, they can't. They can't say they hated me, they didn't want to do anything with me. Well, no, that's not true, because you were there the whole time. So don't give them that fuel. Don't play the fight with them. Don't threaten them. Just teach them the principles, follow through, be patient, develop the relationship. Now, there's a lot more that I could teach you related to the skills of self-government and how to really open these conversations up. But I think the first thing that you probably could benefit from is just working a little bit on your own calmness, so that you don't get stuck in a fight or a trap with this child and feel emotionally manipulated. And there is a calm parenting toolkit that I have. It's on my website right on the homepage, and it's free. So if you go to teachingselfgovernment.com right now, you can get the calm parenting toolkit for free. And that would really help you, I think, learn 10 tools for calmness that might help you as you are trying to be patient and work on this relationship. Go to teachingselfgovernment.com. I'll see you there.